welcome to Washtenaw County Solarize. We're very excited that you're here, and we'll be sharing a lot of great information about solar, how it might work for all of your organizations. First, one more reminder to try and scan that QR code if you haven't signed in yet. Thank you. Have a lot of wonderful organizations here today. We might be going a little fast just because we do have 8 different speakers. So don't fret, we will be sharing these slides after the event and everything else you need via email. First, I'll introduce myself. I'm Lexi Curley. I've been the Solarize coordinator here with the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association for a year, basically working to make solar more accessible via the Solarize program. I am based in Ann Arbor, so please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to chat solar. And about GLREA, if you aren't familiar, we are a 501c3 nonprofit working to make clean energy more accessible around the state of Michigan via the Solarize program, as well as work via advocating in the legislation and intervening the Michigan Public Service Commission, again, working to advance renewables and environmental justice. Why Solarize? You guys probably know a little bit about the program, hence why you're here. What you might not know is that it actually started here in Ann Arbor, thanks to A20 and Julie Roth for starting a residential group buy model for solar. GLRA has taken that model and expanded it throughout the state, as well as reaching out to businesses, nonprofits, places of worship, and other entities. Yeah, you're creating this presentation now. At the end, we'll talk through the group buy discount and have basically a way for everyone to receive a discount on their solar installation should you choose to go solar. This is our 53rd event, and so far those 52 events have led to 185 sales. Personally, I'm hoping we can get up to 200 after this meeting. But at the very low end of our estimate, this has been at least 1,435 kilowatts of clean energy capacity added to the grid, and at least $350,000 saved for participants. Again, probably way more than that in reality, but that's what we have documented. And these are all of our Solarize locations. We're always looking to expand and do repeat events in certain areas, but you can see it's spread out pretty well throughout the state. And last thing I'll say for Solarize is that, of course, we are a nonprofit. We don't benefit directly from this, but we have a lot of stake in the game for other reasons. Right here is global average surface temperature caused by climate change. Won't harp on this point, but we're in a pretty dire situation and want to do everything we can to help decarbonize and expand clean energy capacity. On that side is the increase in utility rates. That's DTE and consumers' energy. As you can see, it's risen a lot over the past 2 decades and is expected to continue to rise at an even sharper rate in the coming years. So essentially, solar is a great way to avoid those rising utility rates by producing some of your own power and avoiding purchasing as much energy from the utilities. All that to say, thank you guys for being here and being part of the just energy transition. We hope we can help you save money and save emissions at the same time. Thank you. One more slide from me. These are just some other resources that GLRA has to offer, starting with our Solar Communities Guidebook. It's available for download on our website. Just another resource to help guide you through solar, the state of it in Michigan, and some more tools in there. If you are interested in supporting renewable energy, please do consider becoming a member. We are a member-based organization and, love your support in putting on more events like these and doing our work around the state. So with that, I'll pass it to Beth to talk about resilient Washtenaw.
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Beth Gibbons. I'm the director of the Resiliency Office with Washtenaw County, and I'm just going to give you a short overview of what the Resiliency Office is up to and what are some of the resources coming out of our office that could support you as homeowners, but also things that may be available to support your municipality, township, city, or village within the county. So the Resiliency Office is charged with the implementation of what's called the Resilient Washtenaw Framework. This is where we're advancing a goal of having Washtenaw County be carbon neutral in our own operations by 2030 and working towards being carbon neutral across the entirety of the county by 2035. In addition to our goals around carbon emission reduction, Our plan also addresses the impacts from climate change. So we think of this as a holistic climate plan where we're thinking about both reducing our carbon, but also preparing for impacts that are with us and impacts that we know are going to be on the way. Our programs cover energy transition, mobility and access, health, natural land preservation, housing, infrastructure, and circular economy. But for here, we're really thinking about our energy transition. So in our top line goals, we're looking to increase renewable energy, energy efficiency, and electrification in all buildings. We have programs available through our office. We also have county programs that include a lot of weatherization opportunities and other programs through the county. So I'm happy to talk with anybody who wants to learn more about energy efficiency, weatherization programs, when we have a little time after our presentations. I just wanted to note that our work is certainly not in vacuum at all. We'll cross the county, whether you're in the city of Ann Arbor, in Scioto Township, whether you're in Ann Arbor Township, the city of Ypsilanti. Many of our municipalities have adopted climate plans, and so there really is an opportunity to look to your local municipality for more ideas around solarization and other energy efficiency efforts, and to really see where together as a constellation of communities in the county, we're working to bring our statewide plans into reality locally. And as I like to say, you know, we have some really ambitious plans here in the county. A20's plan is very ambitious. The Washtenaw County's plan is very ambitious. And we can all look at those and think that nobody's going to make it, and we won't. Or we can look at them and say, okay, so how can I help Scioto Township's plan? How can Washtenaw County help Ann Arbor's plan? How do we lean on the state of Michigan to make sure that we continue cleaning our grid? Because that gets us to all of our goals. So I really like to say that our plans are ambitious, and when we look at them together, I think that we can find more pathways for success for all of us. So this is just a little bit about state data, but we don't need to do that. We'll zip right by it. Although I guess, you know what, for the sake of the moment we're in, I just want to remind people that we're moving Michigan to 100% clean energy. So this is our renewable energy goals. 50% renewable by 2030 by all utilities, 60% renewable energy by 2035, and 100% renewable energy by 2040. And in the face of some really significant pressures on our energy grid that is happening now because of data center development, it's so important that we're all keeping these targets in mind and we're not letting them slip at the state level, because these kinds of targets are what really will facilitate all of our communities reaching our energy goals and all of us being able to have the clean energy that we want. A couple of resources just off the top from us. We host what's called the Renewable Energy Technical Assistance Program. This is a program for municipalities. Whether you're an elected official, you're on the Planning Commission, you're on the Environmental Commission, wherever you may be, to learn about renewable energy. We're doing a series on data centers this year to help communities understand data centers. We host the Climate Resilience Network. This is a countywide network from community-based organizations, neighborhood groups, to organizations, institutions, and the cities to talk about shared action on climate resilience. And we also have a zero emission building handbook. So we worked on this last year with a group called the Wolf Pack. This is guidance on how to get to zero emissions, whether you're a developer or a municipality. And if you're a homeowner and you want to be able to help your developer or contractor navigate the systems, this would be a really helpful handbook for you to have in your back pocket, because some of this is really new for people. And so this is meant to be a guide, whether you're coming into this from the developer and the contractor side, or you're coming into it from the municipality side. Lastly, I just want to highlight Washtenaw County is out here. We're trying to do the good work ourselves. We're working on solarizing our facilities. We have our sustainability manager from Washtenaw County here tonight. I can see our projects on the board. I love it. 555 Towner is ours, 705 Zeeb is ours, 4125 Washtenaw is ours, and the jail is ours. So like, we're putting solar up across the county on your facilities. And so thank you for supporting us doing that. And that is it.
Always great to hear about county efforts. Next, I'm going to hand it off to Lissa and Kim, our wonderful elected pay ambassadors.
So, hi, everybody. I'm Lissa Spitz. I'm with the Washtenaw 2030 District, and we have a lot of resources for the same stuff that everybody else has been talking about. And we just want to make you aware of that. So there is still money available for these projects, but the time is, for some of it, the time is running out. So if you want to do solar, do it now. The Washtenaw 2030 district has a bunch of programs. Our efforts center around reducing carbon emissions and reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the building sector. So it was started by architects. We're interested in buildings. So we're trying to help reduce energy and water use. And these are the main things that we do. I'm not going to go through them in detail, but like I said, we have a lot of resources. We can hook you up with somebody else with a group that has the same kind of building that you have, so you can learn from other people who have done stuff for your type of building. This is our membership. All our services are free, and we work throughout the county. So we basically do a decarbonization roadmap with all our new members, and it's the first thing we do is benchmark and track your current energy use. We'll do an energy audit, which is free and is very detailed and really helpful. And then we help you implement those suggestions from the audit, so to improve your efficiency, and all the whole time we're trying to help you transition to renewable energy. And we give money as well as finding other resources. So we have energy management grants. So if you want to do a small project on your building, often people will use them for the energy audit because that's a great starting point. But this is some of the things that we helped with last year. So these are the kinds of projects that we do. And like I said, there is still money available, and there's a lot of, believe it or not, there are still a variety of sources of financing for these kinds of projects. So there are places that will help you install if you have no capital. You can get a loan, a lease, or a power purchase agreement. There are, Solar Faithful is here. There are groups that will help you finance at the start. Michigan Saves is a great green bank that it gives below market rate loans for these projects. And the community energy management grants from Eagle are going to be opening up within the next couple weeks. So, and we're available to help do an application for those grants. And now it's Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim. I work through 2030 district as elective pay ambassador, and elective pay, you might also have heard it as direct pay, is a federal tax credit for clean energy projects, including solar and battery storage, specifically for non-taxable entities like governments and schools and other public entities like museums or libraries that are owned publicly, nonprofits, rural electric cooperatives, and houses of worship. So if that applies to any of you, pay attention. The elective pay process happens after the end of your project when it's placed in service, other than preparing documents as you go, so you're not frantically trying to get everything at the end. And very simply, it's mostly involves setting up an account with the IRS, getting project ID numbers, and then that's the pre-filing, and then doing the actual filing. But it can be pretty daunting for non-taxable entities that have never had to file with the IRS before. So the state of Michigan started an elective pay ambassador program, which is my role, and Lisa also, that helps with this process. And it's free assistance through the state of Michigan. So what do we do? Why talk to an ambassador? If you're a non-taxable entity, we can help determine if you are eligible to receive elective pay, and also help you with different project deadlines and also filing deadlines and making sure you have all of the paperwork you need in place for that. And also the general average that people get back with elective pay is 30% of eligible project costs, but you might also be eligible for some bonuses. So it's worth talking to us about those and how you can get those if you're eligible or not. And also with the current administration, they have made some changes to some of the eligibility requirements that we're tracking closely and know to figure out what you need paperwork wise, again, it's a lot of papers, to stay eligible. And even before you start a project, it's good to talk to us so that we can make sure you are talking to the contractor and they know what they need to do so that you remain eligible for the elective pay. And then there's also other requirements based on various project things, like project size might determine if you have to follow apprenticeship rules, and other details that we can help walk you through. So again, it's all free technical assistance through the state of Michigan for any eligible entities. And here's our contact information. Lissa and I are both elective pay ambassadors for Washtenaw County and the surrounding counties within what's called the Region 9, Prosperity Region 9 in Michigan. But you can also go to the 2030 district website, or if you scan the QR code, that takes you to the Michigan Infrastructure Office elective pay website. And they have case study videos of other people who have gotten elective pay throughout the state, and also just gives you a little more about the process, shows you the ambassadors all over the state, and our contact information is there as well.
To reiterate, the elective pay ambassadors are a wonderful resource, so definitely feel free to reach out if any of that applies to your entity. Another wonderful resource is Solar Faithful. If any of you all are representing places of worship or people watching the recording maybe. So I'd like to invite up our 3 Solar Faithful representatives. We go live.
Thanks, Lexi. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Young. I am an outreach and operations manager with Solar Faithful. I think I'm standing in front of the screen, but I'm here to briefly tell you about who we are, how we can help, and to hear some real life examples of congregations that have gone solar. So we were started in 2017 through the city of Ann Arbor. The city got a Department of Energy Solar Challenge in Your Community grant to explore how do you serve underserved communities, focusing on faith-based organizations. So the goal was to develop some financing options that would make the process of going solar accessible to faith-based organizations. Since then, we achieved our 501c3 status, and we have contributed to helping Michigan double the number of solar on churches, synagogues, temples, and mosques in Michigan. Our mission is to bring technical expertise and climate-friendly financing to simplify participation in a just clean energy transition for faith-based organizations. And we prioritize serving communities that historically have been underrepresented, low-income communities, and diverse faith traditions. So this is just a snapshot of some of the solar installations in Washtenaw County. It's obviously just not representative of all of them, but just to show you that your peers are going solar and they're leading the way, and you can too. And to follow on that, Murray with Genesis of Ann Arbor will share his experience, followed by Pastor Glass with Lord of Lords.
All right, Genesis of Ann Arbor, house of worship shared by 2 congregations, very unusual, Temple Beth Emeth and St. Clair's. And I'm chair of the green team, have been for about 8 years now. And we got our first solar installation installed by Homeland in February 2021 live. And we only covered about 25% of our electric use. So we wanted to add more, and we added more last summer. And the first one was funded by congregants who set up an LLC and got the 30% tax credit that way. But the new law will allow nonprofits and people who don't normally file tax returns, or institutions that don't file tax returns, to get that 30% tax credit directly. So our installation this summer was done again by Homeland, and we applied, or I was in charge of applying for that 30% tax credit, and just tell you the story of that. I try to do it myself, and as previous speakers have said, it's like impossible if you're not an accountant. So I applied for help through the state of Michigan, and within a couple weeks, I was granted for, an accountant. So her name is Grace Kuskanen, and she's done this lots of times, and she's very adept at it. And we worked with her, and we had to send her all the paperwork, and there was a lot. There were probably like 10 documents she needed. And Homeland helped with that. They sent her the documents that she needed from them. And we applied for that 30% tax credit by filing a tax return. First time we ever filed a tax return in November. And we still haven't got our 30% check. And I just got an email from Grace today. And by the way, I tried calling the IRS 3 times. So that means I spent 3 hours on the phone with them, and they kept shuffling me to different departments saying, you know, I was asking, where's my tax credit? And they said, your return is defective. And Grace has done this a lot, and she doesn't create defective returns. And so I asked, why is it defective? And they couldn't give me an answer. It didn't show on their screen. So they just shuffled me off to a different department. So where it stands now, we got a power of attorney to Grace, and she's going to call the IRS, so I don't have to do that anymore. And just today, I got the email that the power of attorney was sent to the IRS. In about a week, she'll be asking them. So it's not an easy process to get that money back. You're dealing with the government.
There is help available.
Yes, elective pay will help. Elective pay will get you in the door and get you that free account. It'll help you get it. And Calvin Glass is going to talk about
Solar Faithful. Hi, I'm Calvin Glass. I'm project coach for Solar Faithful. But before I was part of Solar Faithful, it was Homeland Solar that helped us. We're the first Black church in Detroit to go solar, and probably the third Black church in Michigan to go solar. But we're the first, one of the first to get the elective pay. And I had to give all the credit to Homeland Solar for the work that they did to help us to get to where we was going. IRS was not giving us anything. They sent us a couple of nasty letters, and they had turned us down. They said no. But Larry was adamant that we got to get this right. So we trailblazed the way. We didn't have ambassadors. We didn't have the infrastructure, the Office of Infrastructure. We didn't have that. But we had Larry and Dave who fought for us. David Stavinoff's office fought for us. Lawyers of good government, I think that's the right word, fought for us. In other words, we just went to bat, and we was not giving up. So long story short, we got the check. We got paid, and we also got interest on the check. So it took about a year and a half, 9 months, probably not a whole year. It took about 9 months for us to get everything. But if I could give any advice, I would say make sure you work with the right installers. Make sure you work with those who's going to walk you through the process. Make sure you network for the resources that's available to help you. But yeah, we have the success story after the headaches. So Larry had the headaches, and I got to smile.
Always good to hear a success story. Thank you guys for those words of wisdom. And next up is Homeland Solar themselves. Yeah, Larry, if you want to come up here, this will be the most technical part of the presentation and the info you guys need. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us this evening. This is our world headquarters right here. So we were founded here about 15 years ago. We weren't in this building, but Dave right there, Dave was the founder of the company, and that's been a lot of experience, 15 years of installations. we're at about, well, last time we looked, we were about 11 megawatts of solar energy. With that, that's a lot of energy. And we think we're probably adding another 3 or 4 this year. And so, you know, it's a lot of really good having, you know, green energy. Green energy is our future, and we're trying to lead the way or do our small part. So am I advancing?
Yep, so all you gotta do is hit the space bar right here when you're ready to. hit that.
Please. Yeah, so this is the most basic of basic explanation of what solar is. So if you're starting from no understanding at all, you got solar panels, generally they're on the roof, possibly on the ground. They are DC, they generate direct current. That direct current will come to an inverter. And in some scenarios where the installation will actually have a battery is also a direct current device. So if you draw a line and say, okay, on this side, you've got direct current, and on the other side, you've got what? Alternating current. Alternating current is what lights everything in a building. And alternating current is really kind of the standard for everything. But guess what? It's different than solar panels and the battery. And the key thing in our grid is also alternating current. So the intelligence of the system and really the hard work, if you will, is all done through an inverter. So, I had to go back here. So this is one of my favorite slides, even though it is a little bit technical. I know a lot of have to explain this to a lot of people. So they ask, what? I'm not working. What? Talking to the mic. Were you having a hard time hearing me? Sorry. I rehearsed it. Anyway, so this is one of my favorite slides because it kind of explains what happens. So loads are what your building generates, right? And that follows some level. This is key demand. It shows up, and when everybody gets up in the morning, or if your startup machines, whatever it is, it'll be reflected in that demand. Solar doesn't pay any attention to anything but the sun, and it generates in a bell-shaped curve, and it sometimes gets interrupted by clouds and different things. But they don't really know anything about each other. But people always ask the question, what happens when my solar is not working? Well, just like it does now, it just goes to the grid and gets AC current, and it uses it. But what happens when you have solar? It goes to the solar first, grid second. And that's what's called behind the meter usage. And that is basically a direct offset of what you would otherwise have to buy from the utility. That's where you get a lot of your savings. But what happens when solar generates more than you're using? It doesn't just throw it away. What it does is it sends it back to the grid, or it sends it to the battery, one of the two, for later use. But in most cases, it's going back to the grid, and you're getting compensated for it under a program called distributed generation. Distributed generation the utility will give you a credit for what you send back to the grid. The credit is about 60% of the value of what you pay them. So you pay them, say, close to 20 cents per kilowatt hour, and they'll give you close to 11 or 12. So this is the way it works. And it's really important because people always ask, well, how much does it cost for my energy? And it's not so easy anymore because you got time of use. And with solar, and on top of that, you've got a blend of time of use with a source that can either be behind the meter or as an export. And so it takes a fair amount of analytics to really to determine whether you're getting a profit. And especially in commercial environments, it's very important. And in commercial environments, we spend a lot of effort to make sure everybody understands that they're going to get a payback. And we can do that through analyzing your usage data and the solar system itself. Wrong side. So what does it look like? Well, it looks like a lot of different things. If you're, in some cases, it's going to be on a pitched roof. In the upper left-hand corner, that's a corrugated steel roof, or actually a standing seam steel roof. Right below it is a asphalt shingle roof. This is on Packard Avenue. This is Blossom Pediatric Dentistry. That up there is, of course, 1 Carrot Lane. That's food gatherers. And the upper right-hand corner, that's skyline. And so you see that rooftop solar can be very large, and in the bottom right corner, it can be quite small. That's actually Washtenaw Dairy. So it can be large, it can be small. But it also can go on the ground, and it can be very large and exotic, like a carport. They're the most expensive, but they produce a lot of energy. And then in the lower corner, it could be a farm that wants to have a little bit of shade and an area together. This was done post and beam, a bespoke solar system for their farm. And in the upper right-hand corner, that is our friend John. Where's John? John. This is Kyocera, and that's all ground mount. And people ask, well, why is it not on the roof? And the answer is because the roof is about, 20 years old and needs to be replaced. So this space was available.
But also, we put it on the ground because we got a higher yield based on the angle that you guys helped us design.
Yep.
So that we could get maximum power from it and also save space for expansion on the building.
Yep.
As well, so you really helped us think outside the box to get more power, reduce carbon emissions, and keep more space in the building. For expansion. So thank you guys.
And then last but not least, they can also be smaller systems. This is on Zeeb Road, if you've ever been by the fire station there. That's this one right there. So if you want to see one up close, you want to see it tonight, you can go there and see it. It's not far from here. What you do again? So this is the heaviest slide. The investment tax credit benefited by the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed in 2022 during the Biden administration. On July 4th of 2025, the new administration, I'll refer to it as the new administration, said basically they're going to change it, and they revoked it and changed it in a lot of ways. Before it was a 10-year opportunity to do solar, and they shortened it and say you got either 6 months, which is in the case of residential, or in the case of commercial, 2 years. So most important date, if you're a commercial or industrial, interested in commercial industrial solar, it's December 31st, 2027. It must be operating by then, else you do not get a tax credit. What is that tax credit? It's a little hard to understand, but it starts with 30%. If you're a for-profit, that's 30% tax write-off, a dollar for dollar tax write-off. And in some cases, if you have domestic content, which we are now installing domestic content. So domestic content means manufactured in the US. And so now you get a 10% bonus adder. So we get a 40% tax credit. If you are a nonprofit, then you can take advantage of elective pay. So even if you don't pay taxes, you can still get a payment, as discussed. And that can be either 30% or 40%. And if you are so lucky to be in, I believe it's Lenawee, Monroe, and some other southeastern counties, they're in what they call an energy community, and you get an additional 10%. So you literally can get 50% back from the federal government until December 31st, 2027. So if you're a faith-based organization, if you're a farmer, if you're a business located in any of those counties down there, 50%. But the not interesting thing is if you are a for-profit, not only can you get a 30 to say 40% tax credit from the government, but you can also take depreciation on the same asset. You can't take depreciation on 100% of the asset, but you can, the adjusted basis was what they call it, can be, for example, for a 40% investment tax credit, you can literally depreciate 80% of the asset. So it's almost like, well, why isn't it 60%? No, it's 80%. And then you think about, there's also one of the things that the one big beautiful bill did was it added back something called bonus depreciation. Bonus depreciation allows you to take, I think it's something like up to $5 million right off in year one. So just take 2026. If you start a system and it costs $100,000 and you do domestic content, which is what we would do, you get 40% back in terms of the investment tax credit. You'd be able to depreciate 80%. And if your effective tax rate's 35%, you get back another 28,000. In other words, the actual cost of the system, when you get your tax done in 2027, would mean this $100,000 system only really costs you $32,000.
And then let's tack on a Solarize discount, so that's why we're here.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, well, it is a lot of math, but just think about 100,000 and then 32,000. And that comes from federal tax credits, but domestic content, which means US jobs, and then also the full, the bonus depreciation. And that generally will be 5 to 7 year payback in that range. Right? So it's actually a pretty good investment, because after you pay for the system 5 years or 6 years, whatever it is, the system generally just produces energy. It's almost free for 25 years. And the people say, it's always remarkable. You see systems that have been installed 5 or 6 years ago, and they're just still producing most of the energy they were when they're young, 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it's not like the solar panels stopped working in 25 years. Those just started losing some efficiency. So, you have solar panels from the 70s that were, very outdated technology still working today. So, now's really the best time in history to invest in solar. And I like to say there's only one guarantee in life, is that your electricity bill is going to keep rising. So that's holding true.
Are there any limits that consumers and DTE can exert on the amount of solar you can install?
Of course, yeah, they will only let you they only allow you 110% of what you are using currently. And
So also in the faith-based environment, as well as
and
commercial.
anything connected to their grid, that would be 110% what you've used in the last 12 months. And in larger systems, sometimes they try to make it less than that. So yeah, if they always, this is going to be a shock to you. DT Energy doesn't want you to own your own solar. Anyway, so we're talking. This is
in that context.
Yes.
What do you call a larger system?
Generally, it's greater than. It's in the 150 kilowatt to 550 kilowatts. Right. That's what they call category 3. It's in category 1 and category 2, they usually don't gripe too much. When you start getting to category 3, they start saying, well, this is too much to put in this particular area, because we don't have the capacity to handle that much, energy sent back to the grid. We're going through that pretty regularly now with them, because they don't like what's going on.
But if you need more power than that 550, you guys will work with us to help get that special study done with DTE, and you can go over that, but it's, I think it's what, 500, 550?
Yeah, but remember I mentioned the distributed generation? That's when they give you compensation for what energy you send back to the grid. That flips at 550. It does not go above 550. So you can go above 550, but they're going to give you pennies on, for your export at that point in time. And that changes very much the economics of it.
That's where the batteries come in.
Yeah, batteries will help. So what happens, we have a turnkey installation, and it generally starts with deciding on an installer. You do an interconnection with the utility. You do the permitting with the jurisdictional authorities. You have to do that. We do the installation. For a small installation, it can be a couple days, even maybe a week. A larger installation can be a month. We've had some, I don't know how long we took for you, John. It was close to a month, I assume, on site.
Yeah, it was quick though. It was, I mean, we did 370 panels and you guys had it up and done in a month and expanded expansion. So we did a two-phase, one to see how it would work, and then it exceeded all our expectations and the carbon emission reduction was fantastic. But you guys had the wherewithal to say, hey, let's put the infrastructure in for phase two build in advance, which was fantastic. It saved us money. It allowed everything to work better with the township and all of that, and it made phase two go really good. So if you guys think about, maybe you only want to go halfway and see how it goes and then do it again, these guys were fantastic. Every step of the way, the township meetings, everything. You couldn't ask for a better business partner than Homer. And then not only did you help us with all of that, I didn't even know when one of the inverters wasn't working and you guys were already on site and already had fixed it. So you were monitoring it before I even knew with our AI system. It was fantastic. I was like, hey, is there something wrong? And you guys were out back. It was like 6 cents. I don't know how you did it, but Larry, if you work with Larry, you'll know he's fantastic.
Well, I take no credit for fixing your inverter.
No, but Larry called you and let you know. So it wasn't like, hey, we're out there. Don't be alarmed. We're fixing it. We saw an issue. So they're a strategic partner that I think that you guys would, you'd be blessed to work with. It's been fantastic.
Thanks. Is this all being recorded?
Yeah.
So, and then after we finish the work, permits are finalized by the jurisdiction, and then DTE gets involved. They come in, they basically reprogram your meter for bidirectional flow, and then you're operating. So when you talk about long lead times for, for generation, for these wind farms and all this, solar goes in literally, even less than 3 months if you really had it, everything went really well. This is my last slide. Sign of relief, everybody. So there's a lot of headwinds right now. Has anybody heard of tariffs? Yeah. And on top of that, as part of the one big beautiful bill, they created something called FIAC. You know what? FIAC, Foreign Entities of Concern. Anybody guess who that is? Of course, it's China. Of course, China had about 80% of the market for renewable energy, whether it's wind, solar. Of course, when you have that much combination in the market, and you say, oh, well, okay, you can't have any of that content or much of that content in your solar system, else you won't get any credits. So we are now navigating the risks associated with FIAC so that we can keep the incentives going. But we're doing it successfully. And then supply chain issues. And we knew about supply chain issues from COVID, but they haven't gone away. And what are they caused by? What are they caused by? Oh, issues or embargoes on certain panels coming from certain equipment coming from certain areas, particularly in China. But more recently, wars. Believe it or not, we are in the process of our shipments of panels are being delayed because of what's going on in the Middle East. So it's having an impact. On the other hand, once you do solar, you save money. And it's much, much less expensive over 25 years than it is continuing to buy energy from the utility. The other thing is the sun is free and they can't control it. It's yours, right? So it's a good way of looking at it. It doesn't change its cost. The sun's not sitting there asking for a rate increase, luckily. And then last but not least, I think it just feels good. I don't really like utilities. I don't like monopoly utilities. Now, me, of course, you'd kind of expect that, right? But they pretty aren't popular with too many people, I can tell you that. So with that, John, you already said a few words. I think you're next. Okay. Come on up. John Brannon. And John is going to talk about the projects that we just mentioned.
Thank you. I didn't get a chance to practice like Larry said, but I formerly worked for
Sarah, and work with Homeland to do a two-phase installation. And many of you kind of just, how do we do it? How do we go about it? I had it on my home, so I became the project lead at work. So I was the only one that knew about it. So and I found these great guys over here, Dave and Larry and Mark DeRogi too. And we installed two phases, really, almost to the top of that 500 limit, which you don't get credit after that. And we generate over 600,000 kilowatts per year, saving almost 1 million pounds of carbon emission. So they helped us navigate everything through the township with the permits, went to the meetings with us. So you're not really alone. They're your strategic partner to take you through there. We were a private business, so we were Danish owned, so we didn't qualify for a tax incentive. So we paid cash for this and did it to help our community and reduce the carbon emissions, but also save money. And we went the mount route because we got an extra 2 to 3% more yield from that based on the angle of the sun there. So yeah, it's been going great, and we were able to host a solar event last summer and have the community out. And I just encourage you guys to take that journey and ask them all the questions. They'll help you the whole way. Knowing that we've got the great folks from Ann Arbor here as well to help you with all of that. There's a ton of money out there to help you on that journey. So I'll stick around afterwards if anyone has any questions or, exciting things that happened. Thanks for having me here today.
Thank you both. Great to hear another success story and all the wonderful information about the solar process. Just to close us out, I will get into the logistics of the Solarize Group Buy, since I know it's what most of us are here for. Basically, there's a 5% off guarantee just for attending or taking part online. We just want to make sure that is the flat rate. Then there's an additional 1% off per contract signed. This is not known for just a little while, probably, I believe, 3 months. So that caps it at 15%. And how this works with the timeline is that you'll have 2 weeks to request your free solar quote simply by emailing Homeland Solar. So do that by April 7th to get the 5% off guaranteed on your solar installation. Then after that, there'll be about a 2-week period in which Homeland Solar will provide the solar quotes for your property. With that, you should receive it around April 21st. And then we know it can be a lengthy decision process, especially if you have board meetings or other things to think about in that regard. So we have 2 months to make a decision on solar. Contracts will ideally be signed by June 23rd. That being said, we know it's a hectic time, so this may be fluctuating based on demand, but this is what we'd like to adhere to. With that, I know we have covered quite a lot today, so I'd like to open it up for questions. Just a really quick note for anyone who may have arrived late, do not worry, we have the full slide deck available that will be sent to you after this. It also goes for everyone receiving the slide deck. And if you haven't yet, I'm gonna bug you one more time about the sign-in. Please scan that QR code and fill out a quick form just so we can get your info to send out that information. And yeah, questions?
And before questions, there's a lot of food left, and we will be doing a tour of the facility after the questions. So if that's of interest to you, you might want to stick around.
Yes, around 8 p.m. we will be able to.
Oh, it's on video.
Solar itself.
Baklava is great.
I have a question.
Good point too.
Is there a dollar cap on the discount? Like,
If new, or
like if the county wanted to do like another like $3 million project and there was like 15% discount, would that count? I mean, we don't, but theoretically, we do, but.
Think about it under rent center, which has been kind of felt like it's off the table.
Mhm.
Anyway.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah. It's, I think it's case specific. I noticed there was 2 months at the end to decide, and then there's a month of analysis in
Mhm.
the first part. And I think that's where we have to, have to get a feel for just what the installation is.
Mary, next time we come in here, when the bidding wars already. Right, no,
ready
I know.
$3 million
Well, that's another good question, like, do you have any, so, I mean, for the county, and I'm assuming other government entities, they have a competitive bidding process, right? So,
Yeah, that's what we usually stick with, because they have an RFP and then we're against.
So would you
half a
would
dozen
recommend-
or
yeah.
more installers, and that's really what it ends up being, as opposed to something that's specific to retail. You're almost getting, because of the RFP process, a wholesale
Right,
approach
you're
or
already getting a
you know,
discount.
discounted price.
Yeah, I can jump in on that, although that is definitely the typical structure, and you are obviously welcome to receive other quotes and pursue other opportunities. I know that Homeland Solar has some of the cheapest prices out of all solar installers, just how they run their business. And the 5% up to 15% will hopefully, further that cost down. Personally, I'd be super surprised if you find another cheaper option, but again, definitely you're not obligated to just stick with this if you'd like to pursue other quotes. Yeah.
I just want to add to that, if you are a municipality and you need help, putting out the RFP to get, vendor proposals, we can help with that, and we can help you evaluate the proposals as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, for a church sort of building, if it's not owned by the organization, but, I mean, we've done lots of renovations to the space especially when we moved in, but any of these things, like even the energy audit kind of thing, is that something that can be done? Or
Yeah, I can. Would you like to do that?
At least as far as elective pay, as long as you own the solar, you can qualify for elective pay. You don't have to own the building, and you own the clean energy product.
Okay.
And Melissa, do you wanna?
We can do an energy audit. for a
Yes.
building even if you don't own it.
Okay.
Yes to the energy audit for the recording.
Cool.
Perfect. Good question. Thanks. Anyone else?
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
I have a solar on my home, on my garage actually, and installed in 2022, just 10 panels because of all the trees. But I'm sure I asked DTE to put me on the 11 to 7 time of use plan. But there's nothing on the bill, nothing on my online account, or that says anything about what time of use plan anybody's on, as far as I can tell. And so finally, I called them up, put on hold for an hour. I said, well, let's try chatting. That got me nowhere. Next day I called, I got right to a real person. They looked into it and said, oh, you're on the 3 to 7 plan. How can I change it? Okay, well, get that done the 24th today. I'm not sure how I'll find out if they did it or not. You know anything about, like, anything on the meter or anything that indicates what time of use plan one is on?
If you look at two DTE bills side by side, if there is on the standard, which is 3 to 7, it'll say it. It should say it.
It doesn't.
I have to take a look at your bill,
Okay.
but ordinarily, if that's the case, it'll show a standard in 3 to 7, but it does not ever say 11 to 7. But it's just called time of use.
Okay.
So time of use, and then you've got, the other, which will actually say 3 to 7.
Even though that's the default, it's 3 to 7.
Yeah, it's not a high quality bill.
Right.
They like inconsistency because it keeps you guessing
Yeah,
and waiting in line when you call.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, utilities are always a challenge. Any other questions before we move to our little tour?
How much would 10 panels cost nowadays?
Depends on a lot of factors. Homeland, do you have a rough estimate for your panels?
10 panels, I mean, it depends on what size panels. I mean, most people, what we do with residential, we can do a black panel, you'll see what they look like. They're pretty large, but those are only 440 watts. But we also have panels that we would use, for example, on a big ground mount, that are 640 watts. 10 panels is, can vary quite a bit.
There's a multiplier on solar that's 1.25 more in that range. And that's the watts, the watt in the solar panel and the kilowatt hours that you get out of that for the year. So a 400 panel would get, you'd anticipate 500, even if you never took the snow off them in the winter or whatever. So 1 1/4 is your kilowatt hours. So if you learn, here's my load for the year, divided by 1 1/4, then you say, well, that's how much I need in watts of solar if I really want to wipe out the whole bill.
Yeah.
And now panels are, so the ground mount ones, I'm not sure, we didn't use 640 watt panels. I think ISR was more like 535 or so.
So
Some of the first ones, when we were 15 years ago, they're 225.
Now they're still coming from China, or they made?
No, they're all over. There's a couple of, we have a couple of manufacturers in Minnesota. There's some made, and there's a lot of equipment coming in to make more. Up by Saginaw, Hemlock Semiconductors makes, and then there's a new big manufacturer, and there's cell manufacturing headed our way.
So, yeah. So let me give you a different answer. If you just give us a call, we'll tell you what it'll cost. And there's no charge for anything that we do. We work for free. Right, Kevin? You just volunteered to work for free. So that's the best way to do it, because there is a wide range of alternatives that, make a difference in terms of the cost. Obviously, domestic content is no longer of any value, because if you're a resident, you don't get any tax credits at all. But big panels generally are less expensive to install than small panels. There's still a lot of options you have, ground, rooftop, whatever it might be.
Lots of options. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you guys all so much for being here and listening. We will all be available for questions via email. And again, these slides will be shared out. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We're going to guide you through this process. There's a lot more food as well. So please feel free to take some. Yeah, or something else.